Okay, what we'll do, again, similar format, except I'm not going to necessarily go through the depth chart. I'll go through kind of a performance evaluation with each position group and kind of give you a feel to how we've graded the film and where we think we are at here after a 2-week period going into an off week. You know, with our offensive line, we've been very pleased with our performance there. This past week, we did have some bumps and bruises that took a few guys out of the game. David Pickard did not play. He played one play in the second half, and that was it. Scott Becker came in relief of David Pickard and did a very good job. You know, that was something where he was well prepared. You did see a noticeable drop off with Scott being in there, and I was you know, happy with his performance. Ryan Bomer also had to lead the game on a couple of occasions. Matt Van Drill came in, and both Scott and Matt, they're seniors, and again, I think that kind of shows the experience factor of knowing what to expect when in a game. And with Matt, you know, did a good job. We had one snap that went over the head of our quarterback, but again, I like the depth that we have. I think injury-wise, David, it's almost more of a bone bruise and an ankle sprain. We'll see how he progresses on the course of the week. You know, he's going to be limited, but we are going to have him moving around and doing things, so that's positive. George Danikovich is coming back. He'll start practicing with the team this week, and we're not quite sure where he's at or what level he'll be able to practice this week, but that definitely brings added depth to the offensive line position. And Brian Bulmer, you know, he's banged up, but this will be a good week for him to get healthy. And you know, I thought overall our offensive line did a very good job on the evening against Ole Miss. The tight end position, right now we're playing basically our two tight ends, C.J. Robertson and Michael Pruitt, are taking the majority of the snaps. Both are doing a very good job in their roles. Michael is becoming more of a receiver threat for us. C.J. is definitely doing a good job with the blocking assignments and is still a receiving threat for us, but we will use Michael, which time when Michael's in the game, we're actually in a 4-receiver set mode where we're thinking not as Michael is as much of a receiver as a tight end. And then Deron Flood and Dalton Morgan are active within the game plans, definitely involved in special teams, but CJ and Michael are getting most of the reps. Ray Agnew and Rick Hicks are doing a good job splitting up the fullback duties. Ray's getting the majority of the snaps, but Rick will get in on special situations, as was the goal line package where he received a pass from Paul McIntosh for a touchdown. So we've been very pleased with the progress of both Ray and Rick, and they're a good complement to each other. Moving on to our receiving core. Right now, John Lance and Cam Fuller are getting the majority of the reps within the package with Stephen McKinney. Is probably next in line as far as getting the most reps, and then we're also getting contributions from Luke Standiford and David Lewis. So that combination of 5 receivers are involved with the majority of our sets, and again, they're all contributing when they have an opportunity to do that. Our tailback situation, we're primarily going with Steven Struther and Jewel Hampton at this point in time, and even there, the number of carries, if you look at each one on the course of the night, I think Steven had 10 carries for 116 yards, and Jewel was about 13 carries. So, you know, we're going to continue to split that, and I think especially having a mobile quarterback where Paul McIntosh is getting his number of carries too. You know, that's how we're distributing the football right now out of the backfield. And then at the quarterback position, again, Paul McIntosh is our guy. Looking at the game from Saturday, I think Paul's performance was somewhat reflective of our entire team's performance on Saturday night. Very gutsy. Paul accounted for 277 yards of total offense for us, passed for 2 touchdowns, ran for 80 yards, passed for 197, took some big time hits, kept getting up, kept playing tough. Made some mistakes though. It wasn't the perfect game for Paul. Definitely wishes that he would have a couple of those throws back, and there's areas that we can get better at. But I think that's kind of a good reflection on how Paul played. That was kind of reflective of how the entire team played on the evening. So that's our situation at the quarterback spot. Moving on, our defensive line. I was very happy with our defensive line play. That offensive line is probably as big as we'll see. That's one of the questions that come in the season. How would we be able to handle a physical offensive line that had size on us? We gave up 40 to 50 pounds. Keon Swanson, I think, probably played his best game as a Slookie. He very aggressive, ran the field well. A lot of his tackles he made were on the perimeter. I was really happy with Keon's progress. His injury is an ankle sprain. Again, we'll know more come Tuesday, Wednesday. He will be limited this week. With ankle sprains, you never really know the severity until you get about 3, 4, 5 days out, and you start waiting for that recovery, and hopefully the recovery process sets in. Kenny Boatwright continues to develop as a defensive end. Again, his mobility, he made a couple plays where he ran the ball carrier down from behind, and those were impressive plays if you were able to see them. That's what we're looking for from that position. Chance Cota continues to be that veteran on the defensive front, brings that experience to the table, which I think is very beneficial. Kyle Russo got a number of reps. He's playing both at the nose and the defensive end spot. And he had 24 reps in the course of the night, so he's being a good utility guy for us on the defensive front. And Eza Obiora continues his development. So those are the 5 guys that received the majority of the play. Blake Miller did not make the trip. He had a hamstring issue, so he stayed in Carbondale. Outside linebacker, we're really at a point now where we're probably playing 4 outside linebackers in a steady rotation. You got Littles and DeMonch taking the majority of the reps, but the return of Blair Lane, he did get a good number of reps on the course of the evening, and Corey Lee, another one that is contributing. E.J. Clark had a couple nice plays in, had some limited play time. Juan Avila, again, contributing, but I guess the 4 main guys that we would have would be Littles, DeMonch, Lee, and Lane getting into the rotation. The inside linebacker spot, Joe Ocon was back coming off of a hip pointer. At this time last week, we weren't real sure what Joe's availability was. He had a good week. He was able to get some practice time in, and he played a good game. So it was good having Joe back. I don't know if he was at 100%, but he's probably in that 90% range. Connor James continues to play well. Again, made some plays on the perimeter that were very impressive, ran some people down from behind. Brian Presame is continuing to advance in his development, just learning the defense. This isn't a simple defense to play in, and Brian is getting about just a little bit under half of the reps at the inside spot, as is Scotty Cole. So those are the 4 guys that are getting the majority of the inside looks. Then with our defensive backfield, been happy with our progress there, especially at the corner position, which was, last year we kind of had a revolving door going at the corner spot, but now we're actually doing that intentionally, where we're playing 4 different corners during the course of the game. You had Terrell Wilson takes the majority of the reps. Terrell is doing a good job in his development. There was that one pass interference that was called on him, which, again, from my perspective, I didn't see it, but that's the way that one is. James McFadden also taking the majority of the reps at the corner, but you are seeing Courtney Richmond in the game more often, and Nick King. So those guys are doing a good job spelling the other 2 corners. And then at the safety position, Mike McElroy and Boo Rogers getting the majority of the reps. Rashad Graham had some nice playing time on Saturday night, and Luke Thuston is kind of doing a spot fill right now for Mike McElroy. But that's our defensive backfield. Moving on to special teams, Jackson McLaughlin is doing a good job with his the kicking responsibilities, the PAT, the field goals. We're at 100% with the PATs, and we're at the 100% with the field goals. So and that's pretty much what we want out of Jackson. I tell him anytime we get inside the 25, that's all I ask is to be at 100%. So so far he's living up to that. Chris Adams handling our kickoff responsibility. And Chris doing good on our deep kickoffs. We did try to a couple things on Saturday where we were trying not to kick to their guys, doing a sky kick, and that's one thing that Chris needs to work on, just a little more variety with these types of kicks, so that we can make other people return the football. So that didn't go quite as smooth as what we were looking for on Saturday night. Austin Puchalowski continues to be a very solid performer for us at the punting position. And that last punt that we had, when we punted 3 times on the game, but his last one was extremely impressive. We were asking him to put it on the sideline, and he did that. I forget how long it was, about 50-plus yards, but it was a pretty impressive punt. Snapper, Jason Stegman, again, you never hear his name mentioned by Mike Reese, so that means he's doing a great job with his performance. And then our returners, we've yet to really get Steven in return, and part of that was due to the rugby-style kick that they were doing, made it very difficult to field the ball. But our kick return unit, I think, has been pretty solid, both in Strother and Hukukaloko. We're very close on a couple of those against a pretty good football team, where we're just 1 or 2 blocks away from taking it all the way. So, we spend a lot of time on that unit, and that's something that we hope we can continue to improve upon. And our expectation there is that we do want to return one here in the near future. So, the overall injury report, it's not too bad. With David Pickard, Keon Swanson, we just got to see how they progress this week. And then we got bumps and bruises. Talking with Lee, our trainer, his description of the injury that he was treating, he just put down sore. There's a lot of guys that played hard on Saturday. They took a physical beating, and it's a good week for us just to heal up, I think, overall. But and we do have the addition now of George Denikovich will be activated. Just some of our players of the week here. Again, this is just some general information. Our scout players that we had: Ronald Baines is a corner that has definitely impressed the coaches with his ability out of New Jersey. Our offensive scout player, Kendall Edwards from Carbondale here, really gave us a good look on the week, simulating basically number 3, Jeff Scott, their running back, but Kendall, I thought, gave us a good look on the week. And our defensive scout player, kid out of Wisconsin, Adam Brandt, at the defensive end position, a big kid, 6'4", 225, also very fast. We were happy with his effort on the week. Going into our team awards from the game, our special teams player, we went with Austin Puchalowski, just with the 3 kicks that he had. That first kick, even though it was returned on us, it was an all-out rush. It was one of those where he didn't have much time to get that ball off, and I think if you're looking for improvement from last year to this year, his get-off time was at a point where there was no way they could get to the ball. So that was encouraging there. And then his last punt is exactly what we're looking for, that ability to put some angle on it and make it a non-returnable. So we're happy with Austin's performance. Our defensive game awards, our hamburger hits. It was a physical game. We made some hits out there, so that was a good to see. We had 3 guys that were nominated for the hit of the week: E.J. Clark, Kenneth Boatwright, Brian Presame. And we felt like the hit of the week was E.J. Clark. The hit that he put on the quarterback right before he fumbled and Joe Ocon recovered it. So sometimes it's an accumulation effect that if you get to the quarterback enough, all of a sudden he starts thinking about where's the pressure coming from, and I think that was part of forcing that turnover. Our lunch pail goes to the guy that just had a good overall steady game, goes to Connor James, and then our player of the game goes to our nose guard, Keon Swanson. Offensively, our game awards, our top block goes to C.J. Robertson. We did have some success running on the perimeter, and a lot of times C.J. was right at the point of attack, so C.J. really did do a good job matching up with their defensive ends, who I thought were pretty athletic. Our lineman of the game went to Brian Bulmer. Again, just another gutsy performance on his part. He was banged up, I believe, a couple times, but always managed to get back in the game. And then our player of the game was Steven Struther, who had 116 yards on 10 carries and had some nice runs. Continues to be a vital component, not just offensively, but also for us on special teams. So, with all that being said, that's just kind of a wrap up. Where I see things, kind of my evaluation of the team at this point in time. We were tested, and that's the one thing from week 1 and week 2. We can evaluate where we're at as a football team. We have things to work on this week that we need to work on. We know what our strengths are. We know what our weaknesses are. So because of that, that's a good thing right now. We know what we got to do here to take the next step. The concerns I have with the game, and the things too that I think we can learn from, I think we got overwhelmed with the nature of the game, and that's something that we have to learn from. This was a big game setting. There was a lot of emotions at the beginning of the game. The mistakes that we made early on, they were very correctable, but it was basically mental mistakes or just not being quite in tune with what was happening, and therefore we gave up big plays. So that's something, when we do get in the big games, we got to make sure that the focus is where it needs to be at, and trying to eliminate as many of the distractions as we possibly can. So that in itself was an experience that hopefully we'll use for the better. We made too many mistakes against a good team. You look at offensively, 4 turnovers. You can't give up the field position that we gave up. On the game, our average starting spot was at our own 23. Their average starting spot was at the 43. So you're in any game, regardless of the level, you're going to put yourself at risk with those type of numbers. Defensively, the thing that we got to do better, we missed tackles. That first big run of the game for them that they scored the touchdown, we probably had 6, 7 missed tackles on that play alone. And again, a lot of it's just technique, a lot of it's just being aware of the situation, and it's being able to adapt to speed. And that was something that we didn't do. Special teams, we have to be more assignment sharp with their special teams. At punt return, it was probably the simplest thing that we teach that didn't get done, is we just didn't have contain on the punt return. And all it is just the person being in the right position, because we had 6 guys going down the field. There was nobody blocking us on the return. It was just out of position. And again, that goes back to the emotions of the game, knowing your responsibilities and doing it. So those are things that we'll work on. Those are things that are very correctable. It's not a mismatch or a physical deficiency that we had. It was just basically not playing the complete game. Positive though, which I think you can definitely build upon. This group really never did give up. They had a lot of reason to. They had a lot of adversity. But even in the darkest, 6 minutes in the game, and you're trying to figure out, what's 21 times 4, and you're not quite sure, if you can get the ship straight, if the guys stay positive, and it's that next play mentality that I think we hung on to, that we just say, line up the next play, let's make something happen. So that showed us a lot about the team. And the thing too, I think we've identified areas that are areas we need to improve, and I think they're definitely correctable. And we also know that we need to get better. That's one of those things too, where you're not thinking, well, what do we need to get better at? We know exactly what we got to get better at, and we got a week to do it and work on some drills. And I think the timing of the off week is pretty good to us. So our week coming up, just to give you a feel there, we're going to do the morning practices. We did that last year. Really liked it, the players liked it. So 6 a.m. we're on the field, and we'll be done by 7:30. It's going to be short and sweet. Nobody's going to be missing any classes. Get the guys up early, work on the things that we need to work on. Also bring some guys back as far as the health is concerned. So we'll do a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Friday right now will be a workout day for us, lifting and conditioning. Saturday will be off, and then next Sunday we'll start preparing for Missouri State. So with all that being said, are there any questions?
Yeah, after the game last weekend, you mentioned that one of the reasons you didn't try an onside kick because it was good. Have you ever thought about asking Kyle Doherty, who's down at high school, to teach that to a kicker or whatever? Because he's doing a heck of a job with their kicker.
Yeah, he's doing a good job. Kyle's a good job. That's one of those things, either you got it or you don't. And we can do it, but it was at the time, and it worked out for us. That onside, now you think at that time there was 6:39 left in the game. All right, the last thing we wanted to do is give up field position, where all of a sudden now you take yourself out of the game. We felt that for us to give us the best choice, and we weren't real comfortable with our onside, but we were playing some pretty good defense at that time. We did kick the ball deep, we played defense, we got the ball back with 4:39 left in the game, and we're down 2 scores. So that was a decision that at the time, you think both ways, but with 6:39, if we're playing good defense, and then we wanted to have better field position. That's where they did a good job with their field goal kicker. We ended up being backed up again coming out, but Kyle's good, and he comes over here all the time. He lives with Paul McIntosh, so Kyle's with us all the time. Okay. So, but it's one of those. And the technique that you use to do it, I mean, it's like a lot of things. Some things it comes natural to some people, and other people it doesn't.
Coach, obviously you're not going to be facing that caliber of a team on a weekly basis, but at this point, where do you feel like the team measures up as a whole against FCS teams?
Well, again, I'm not going to speculate on that. I don't know how good Ole Miss is. I like the opportunity to get there and play an FBS team. I think we got a chance to be a very good football team in the Missouri Valley, and I think the Missouri Valley is very tough. I look around and see some of the scores. Again, it's tough to draw any comparison because all you're doing is comparing scores, but Youngstown State right now has my attention. I think they are a team that's definitely on the rise. They have the talents. They did some nice things against Michigan State, completely demolished Valparaiso. So those are things that are pretty impressive.
What do you really think about your strengths and weaknesses right now? What do you think are your strengths and weaknesses?
Well, I think right now we got to pay attention to the details, do the little things right. Our weaknesses aren't glaring, but it is attention to detail. It's execution offensively, execution defensively, being in the right spots, being able to run the defense and the offense specifically the way that you coached it, special teams, making sure that people are always in position on special teams. So right now what we need to do a better job is pay attention to detail.
Yeah, 2 sacks. How good do you think your pass rush can be?
Well, I think we have a pretty athletic defensive front, so but the pressure that we bring, we better have sacks.
Coach, what was the message to the team yesterday when you met with them, when you guys were looking at film and stuff?
The message was pretty simple. you know, we came out of that game where we can feel good about things, but at the same time, we have to realize that it was our mistakes that are very correctable that cost us an opportunity to do better. Now, I'm not saying it cost us to win or that we're supposed to win if we do this and this better, but we could have played a much better football game against Ole Miss, and we didn't do that. And that's something that you have to realize and understand and not be happy with. You know, there's a satisfaction that we went in and we competed. You know, we held our ground when we were, you know, against some adverse situations, but we could have easily done a lot better, and that's what we got to do.
I know you mentioned that you'll know more about Keon's ankle situation, you know, tomorrow or Wednesday. You know, has Lee told you? I mean, is it a high ankle sprain or a lower one, or any idea at this point?
Then again, ankle sprains, they take time to develop. It's you know, you never know. You hear on Sunday, you hear Monday. You really don't know the severity of it until Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, because that's when the recovery period should be setting in, and sometimes it's not. So, you know, that's one of those wait and see. You know, Keon was moving around on it. He's, you know, he's optimistic, and you know, usually that's a good sign in itself. But you know, you just gotta handle what time would take to answer that question.
Do you think it's as bad as McElroy was last year? Hard to say.
There's no way to tell. There's no, McElroy he had to have surgery. So I would hope it's not that bad.
Are most of our passing plays done in the pocket? We don't have any where Paul goes and sprints to the right or left or whatever.
We got him moving all over. We had sprint all packages. We
The
had
reason I
plans,
ask
and
is
we had
because
moving.
of the pass block, and I realize the guy is 6'6".
Yeah.
Is there some way our linemen like chop block? I don't know. Is that
The advantage there too, that wasn't Paul's fault. That one was we did not have the right timing of our offensive tackle throwing the block. So a lot of times, yeah, the quarterback is thrown under the bus here and everyone's saying it's his fault. But in reality, he's doing exactly what he's been taught to do. Now that guy did a pretty good job. We threw the block too soon. He was able to come off with a cut block and then react up. And when Paul threw the ball, the amazing thing there is that guy wasn't in the area. And it was just his reaction time that got him there. And then being a big guy with long arms, he made the play.
So it was the timing of the cut block?
Yeah, it was up front.
Got it.
Coach, turnovers were a big part of your season. You know, last year, did you feel better about no fumbles against Mississippi, and you did not lose a fumble against SEMO? Do you feel better about that this year already?
It's 4 turnovers though. I mean, it's one of those. It doesn't. Turnovers are turnovers, whether they come through the air or you know, our running backs did a good job hanging on the ball, but that's an expectation. So you know, we need to do a little bit better with some of our throws.
Do you feel good about your ability to get the ball to your key playmakers on offense?
I think we have done a good job getting the ball to our key players on the offense. So again, you look at we had 8 explosive plays on the course of the night. Now that's good against any team, and you know, especially when you're looking at a SEC defense that really held the BYU offense in check the week before. You know, that I think speaks that we do have some big playmakers on offense.
You had said Bulmer had been shaken up. You know, is he going to be limited this week too in practice?
Well, no, Brian, he needs to heal up. He's just bruised. I mean, when you're playing center, you get hit all over. So you know, that's the big thing that he needs is just let himself heal up.
Anything else?
All right, thank you.